Hello, this is Ray, one of the program presenters in the Atchison Planetarium at Cranbrook Institute of Science, with a look at the pre-dawn sky for the week of July 6. There are 4 planets in the morning sky at 4:30 Eastern Daylight Time. Jupiter and Saturn continue to drift toward the southwest. Mars is in the southeast. Venus is only 7 degrees above the east horizon at 4:30 and will be difficult to spot. We can follow the moon across the morning sky this week. The moon is located in the southwest, below Saturn, and to the left of Jupiter on the morning of the 6th. The 3 will form a triangle. We're only 1 day past the full moon phase, and the moon will scatter a lot of light in this part of the sky. Jupiter is bright, but Saturn is fainter. On the 11th, the moon will be at the lower right of Mars, and on the 12th, it'll be at the lower left of Mars. Meanwhile, on the morning of the 10th, Venus will be directly above the star Aldebaran in the east. On the morning of the 13th, Venus will be to the left of Aldebaran. We'll need an unobstructed horizon in order to see the two. Binoculars will help as the sky is beginning to brighten with morning twilight. Aldebaran is not a welcome sight for many. It's the eye of Taurus the Bull, and Taurus is one of the winter constellations. It rises in the east after sunset in December, but who wants to think about December in July? 14 degrees above Aldebaran is a beautiful Pleiades star cluster. Messier listed it as number 45 in his catalog. It's strange that he bothered to include it in his list of objects that weren't comets. First of all, it's not one of those fuzzy patches of light that's only visible through a telescope and could be mistaken for a comet. It's clearly visible to the naked eye. Not only that, it in no way resembles a comet. The individual stars can be seen very easily. It looks like a tiny dipper. The view through binoculars is spectacular. The Pleiades have been known from ancient times. Galileo is believed to be the first person to observe the Pleiades with a telescope in the 1600s. Different cultures call the Pleiades by different names. One of the most common is the 7 Sisters, because originally 7 stars were visible in the clear, dark skies of the past. In Japan, the cluster is called Subaru, and it's a symbol on the back of Subaru automobiles. It's said that Native Americans use the cluster as a measure of eyesight. Today, most people see 5 or 6 stars with the naked eye, but astronomers have identified over 1,000 stars that belong to the cluster. The Pleiades is called an open star cluster because there's a great deal of space between the stars. The stars aren't tightly bound by gravity like stars in a globular star clusters. So as the Pleiades drifts through space, the stars will slowly spread out. Be sure to enjoy the sight of the Pleiades while you can, because they'll have dispersed in only 250 million years. The Pleiades is one of the closest clusters to Earth. The average distance is about 445 light years. Many of the stars in the Pleiades are closer, while others are farther away. The cluster is dominated by bright, hot blue stars. The blue color of the stars indicates the cluster is very young, maybe only 100 million years old. The hazy nebulosity we see is created by starlight that's reflected off dust particles. There was some debate regarding that nebulosity. Was it part of the cluster, or did it just happen to lie along the same line of sight? It first was thought that the nebulosity was remains of the dust and gases from which the stars formed. However, if that were the case, the nebulosity should have dispersed after 100 million years. Today, it's believed the Pleiades just happen to be drifting through a dusty part of the sky. About 25% of the stars in the Pleiades are brown dwarfs. The existence of brown dwarfs had been predicted in 1962, but the first brown dwarf to be verified wasn't until 1995. It was located in the Pleiades cluster. Brown dwarfs have a very low mass and aren't able to fuse hydrogen to helium in the cores like other stars. It's believed, however, they're able to fuse deuterium and possibly lithium. They emit almost no visible light. They do emit infrared energy, but our eyes aren't designed to see it. Special instruments are needed to detect infrared radiation. If we could see a brown dwarf, its color would be more magenta. The size of a brown dwarf lies approximately between the size of a giant planet like Jupiter and the size of a small star. Gas giant planets have some of the characteristics of brown dwarfs. For example, Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune radiate more heat than they receive from the Sun. It's said if Jupiter had been about 80 times more massive, it would have been a small star, and its collection of moons would have been planets. One of the missions of NASA's James Webb Space Telescope is to study brown dwarfs. It'll be launched into space in 2021. Now that we're in July, the amount of sunlight we receive is beginning to lessen, and sunrises are occurring later. Sunrise on the 6th is at 6:03 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. At the end of the week, on the 11th, sunrise is at 6:06. Thanks for visiting and keep looking up.